SpaceX is not a smart move right now. If you don't believe me, I'm going to prove it by the end of this video, and I'm not going to waste your time. We're just going to dive straight into it. So if I said to you, buy SpaceX right now, I can sell it whenever I want, but you're not allowed to sell it for the next 30 days. If you even think about selling it, you're banned from investing in IPOs for the rest of your life. Would you say that sounds like a great deal? Would you say that sounds fair? Or does it sound a little bit dodgy? If you think it sounds dodgy, that's what SpaceX is doing right now. If you're a normal person, like a retail investor, you're allowed to buy SpaceX, but you have to hold it for 15 to 30 days before you're allowed to sell it. 15 to 30 because it depends on which broker you're buying it through. If you're buying it through Fidelity, you have to hold it for 30 days or you get banned from IPOs for life. But the banks and the hedge funds, they don't have that same rule. They can sell whenever they want. Of course they can. The insiders, the people who own SpaceX stock from the start, like the employees, for example, they have some restrictions, but not as many restrictions as you do, of course. And it gets worse. It used to be that you couldn't even invest in IPOs like SpaceX unless you had $100,000 invested with Fidelity. That's the broker. Why? Because IPOs are incredibly risky and they're not really suitable for retail investors. It's kind of like gambling. But for SpaceX, they lowered that limitation from $100,000 to $2,000. And then they said that you can't sell it for 30 days after buying. There's absolutely no reason to do that other than if you want to dump on retail. But people are jumping in anyway. I mean, remember those horror flicks from the 90s like Scream? I miss the 90s. Scream was such a fun movie. Well, you know, there's a maniac in the house. He's chasing someone through the house, and instead of going out the front door, running out onto the street, they run upstairs and corner themselves in the bedroom. And you're thinking, this person's so dumb. It's the same kind of thing with people who are getting into SpaceX. All the warning signs, everything, and the person just runs straight into the trap. I mean, why does SpaceX need all these stupid rules and restrictions and limitations around it if it's truly a good asset that's destined to go up, that's destined to 2x, 3x, 4x? And that, in my opinion, is just one of the reasons that gold is better. Gold doesn't have rules. It doesn't need them. It just goes up and it beats inflation over time, and it's done so for a long time. I mean, someone left a comment on my last video. The editor will throw it up on screen. Gold preserves your wealth, and it's done so for generations. When I say generations, I mean thousands of years. SpaceX and things like it have come and gone throughout the entirety of gold's history, throughout the entirety of human history. And this one, SpaceX, will come and go, and gold will be left standing, will preserve its value while SpaceX loses its value. I think SpaceX is probably going to go down anywhere between 70 to 90% from where it's at right now, and I'll explain why in a second. So let's talk about it now. Why will SpaceX lose its value? In my opinion, not financial advice. So SpaceX listed at 1.75 trillion. That makes it one of the most valuable companies on the planet. But last year, SpaceX did about 18.7 billion in revenue. It sounds like a lot, but it actually isn't, because SpaceX is valued at more than Amazon. At least it was a few days ago. It might have gone down now. But Amazon did $717 billion in revenue to SpaceX's 18.7 billion. So that makes sense. Actually, I looked this up. Freeport McMoran, a copper and gold mining company, did 26 billion in revenue. They are valued at only 100 billion, which is 17.5 times less than SpaceX. It's just so absurd. At least with gold, we know why it has value. The reason it has value is logical. There's true demand and it has some true industrial uses. Also, it's a hedge against inflation and many other reasons. And it's had value and grown its value for thousands of years. But SpaceX, it's not just overhyped. That's the thing. This whole thing has been engineered from the ground up to extract money from retail, from you, from me. How's it been engineered this way? And why are people blindly piling in? It's called the float, right? So it only has about a 4% float. So that means 4% of SpaceX shares are actually available to trade. The other 96% are locked up, held by insiders, employees, early backers, banks, of course they are, Morgan Stanley being one of them, and they cannot sell yet, but they can very soon. So let me explain how float works. Imagine a pizza place. Orders are flooding into the pizza place, hundreds of them, but almost all the pizzas are frozen solid in the back, and you're only allowed to sell the ones that are forward. I'm not sure what kind of pizza place sells frozen pizzas, but whatever, let's just stick with the analogy. So there's about 100 orders, but there's 10 forward pizzas, and there's 240 still frozen in the freezer. Obviously, the price of those 10 pizzas is going to go through the roof because everyone's fighting for a tiny handful of pizzas while a mountain of them are sitting frozen. That's SpaceX right now. The price looks insane because only 4% of it is for sale. But freezers don't stay shut forever. Over the next 6 months, around 58% of all SpaceX shares will become sellable. And almost all of that belongs to insiders. That is 14 times what's sellable right now. So the supply is going to go up 14 times. In terms of pizza, you had 100 orders for 10 pizzas. Now you have 100 orders for 140 pizzas. I mean, do you see the scam? It's pretty obvious. Insiders are going to be able to dump those shares on retail, and there's going to be a lot of shares very soon. So when I say that SpaceX is for idiots and gold is for geniuses, I mean, the reason is you can't do this with gold. Sure, COMEX can manipulate the market with ETFs, but not at this level. They can't just magically 14x the entire supply of gold over 6 months. If you disagree with me, by the way, construct me a logical argument as to why I'm wrong about this. Honestly, I'd love to hear it. And don't just say, oh, I love Elon Musk. He's my best friend. He's going to make me rich. You're wrong, Nick. Don't say that. Give me an actual logical argument as to how SpaceX can do a 10x from here when the supply is going to 14x all of a sudden. So also, normally insiders are not allowed to sell any shares in the first 6 months. That's traditionally how IPOs work, to protect the public from being dumped on. Not SpaceX, though. They've made this IPO so that insiders can start dumping shares in the next few weeks. But I'm sure it's all above board. I mean, obviously there's nothing dodgy going on here. Elon Musk is just amazing. And look, don't just take my word from it, some random dude from YouTube. Here's Warren Buffett, the greatest investor who's ever lived, explaining why this is dodgy as hell.
If you think about it, you've got a whole bunch of people on the other side who have an interest in marking up each stage of it, even if it's phony. Sometimes they offer one price for the employees that already have the shares, but then they have an artificial price so they can say that this round went at a higher price. They're picking the time to sell to you. I like it when I'm picking the time to buy in a 2008 rather than having them pick the time when they decided this is the time we can cash in by selling to you. We're going to do you a big favor and let you buy in. So I have never been a big fan of IPOs, and the valuations are kind of staggering now on some.
I mean, say what you want about Warren Buffett, but he has a point. I know he's just a billionaire and you don't trust billionaires. You shouldn't trust billionaires, not Elon, not Buffett. But as he points out, big companies are never going to say, we're going to do you a big favor and let you buy. I mean, that's the whole scam in one sentence. Elon Musk is not doing you a favor by letting you buy. He doesn't care about you. The people selling always pick the moment that suits them to sell, not you. And with SpaceX, it isn't just one insider. It's Elon and 20 of the biggest banks on Wall Street deciding that right now, at the top, is the perfect time to sell to you. Buffett waits to buy when everyone's terrified. That's his MO, right? SpaceX is the opposite. They're shoving it at you while the hype is the loudest, and that should ring alarm bells. And this is where it gets properly dodgy, by the way. You might be thinking, fine, I just won't buy it. And that's smart, in my opinion, not financial advice. Except you don't really get a choice because most people do not control their own investment accounts. I mean, their own retirement accounts, let's say. Their 401k or retirement account is controlled by an investment advisor who is in turn employed by BlackRock or similar companies like Fidelity. The same Fidelity that we just talked about that lowered the threshold from 100K to 2K and also said that if you buy it, you can't sell it within the first 30 days or you're banned from buying IPOs again. So I'm sure that's totally above board, nothing to see here. So just the fact that they have to play all these games is proof enough that gold is a smarter choice. Gold versus SPX, I'm picking gold. Now, look, every single financial YouTuber has covered how they're forcing SpaceX into your portfolio, so I don't want to waste your time. I'll go through it super quick. The quick version is all the rules being bent right now are being bent to include SpaceX in stock market indexes like the NASDAQ. They want to include it straight away, which normally they have to wait months, but they want to include it straight away because it's going to force NASDAQ holders to buy SpaceX shares. And most retirement portfolios or 401ks for Americans all over the world really, hold NASDAQ in some shape or form. So they are creating forced buyers. And on top of that, like I've already said, if you buy by choice, you're forced to hold for 30 days. Meanwhile, insiders are having all their shares unlocked as quickly as possible. I believe quicker than any other major IPO in history. That's the scam, a classic pump and dump. And by the way, IPOs in their first year, on average, go down 54%. Anyway, so at the top of the market, Wall Street has run this exact same playbook before, loads of times, loads and loads of times. Let me tell you about a company called Cisco. Back in the late 1990s, Cisco made the kit that ran the internet. Routers, switches, the actual kind of workings of the web. A real company, real products, real bloody revenue. Everyone wanted in. The story of Cisco was perfect. The internet is the future. Cisco builds the internet, so Cisco is the future. It can only go up. Actually, fun fact, in 1999, Cisco made $15 billion in revenue, which is almost the same as SpaceX made in 2026. Adjusting for inflation, $15 billion is actually worth like $30 billion. So, you know, they technically made a lot more. Anyway, but by March of 2000, Cisco was the most valuable company in the entire world, worth more than Microsoft. Every fund owned it, every pension owned it. If you had money in the market, you owned Cisco, whether you knew it or not. And then the bubble popped. Cisco fell 90% and it didn't bounce straight back. Of course it didn't. It bled out slowly over 2 years while people kept calling every dip a buying opportunity. And as I pointed out on this channel before, how long did it take Cisco to reclaim its all-time high from the year 2000 to re-reach the same market cap it hit in the year 2000? Basically, 26 years. It did like 2 or 3 months ago. It took 26 years. But the thing is, Cisco was never a bad company. People just paid a stupid price for it. They overpaid. And if you bought Cisco at the top, when everyone swore it couldn't lose, you'd have spent like your whole adult life, 26 years waiting to break even. And you know, with inflation, you wouldn't have broken even. And Cisco isn't a one-off. This happens at the top of every bubble. In 1929, the hot stock was called RCA. It was a radio company. So radio was new technology back then, and it was going to change everything, and it kind of did, really. But the stock still dropped from about 114 down to 250. And everyone who bought the hype, they waited a generation to break even. Or what about the 1970s? Polaroid, we all know Polaroid. It was making like 700 million per year, but it was trading at around 90 times its earnings. It was pure hype. Well, it crashed 90% too, and it never actually recovered. It went bankrupt in 2001. That's why I'm saying I think SpaceX is going to do a 70, 80, 90% crash. And by the way, Polaroid truly was an innovative company. I know it sounds dated now, but at the time it was innovative. It was just way overpriced because of hype. Like RCA, like Cisco, like SpaceX. Now, the SpaceX fans, they're probably typing already. I can hear what they're going to say. But Nick, SpaceX is different. Starlink actually makes money. Elon is a genius. He wants to make me rich. Billionaires, sorry, trillionaires, because he's a trillionaire now, they do not care about you. You don't need me to tell you this. Elon doesn't care about you. Elon cares about Elon and about his friends if he has any, which he probably doesn't. But I hear you, right? Maybe I'm wrong. So let me give you the other side of this debate, honestly, because I'm not here to lie to you. Starlink is real. I mean, it's the satellite internet bit, and it genuinely brings in cash. That's true. So SpaceX has several companies underneath it. Starlink is one of them. So SpaceX is also a real company with a real business, same as Cisco was. But that's the whole point. Cisco was a real business too. Being a real company doesn't, mean that you're allowed to be valued at a stupid price or sell yourself for a stupid price. So for SpaceX to be worth 1.75 trillion, you have to believe some insane stuff. Like Starlink, the internet company, is needing to sign up over 1 billion customers when right now it has 10 million. I mean, just do you really believe that's going to happen? I don't. But that's what the banks base this valuation on, that Starlink would have 1 billion customers in the next few years. I don't see it. Maybe Elon will pull it off. Who knows? Anyway, I personally would just rather buy gold. And I'll tell you why. Let me explain why I think gold is the smarter move and why I think SpaceX is a dumbass move. Every time one of these companies blew up, so RCA, Polaroid, Cisco, shit, even railway mania in the 1840s, or the Florida land boom in the 1920s, or aviation, the aviation bubble in the late 20s, Japanese asset bubble in the 1980s, or 2008, the global credit housing bubble, right? You know what? If you really care about this stuff, read this book. There's such a good book on this. It's called Devil Take the Hindmost, A History of Financial Speculation. It's a weird name. It's one of the best books on this subject in history. It's from 1999, so it missed out on 2008, but it will really change your mind about these speculative bubbles. It really lets you see SpaceX for what it is and gold for what it is. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, so let's get back on subject. What I was saying is every time one of these bubbles blows up, one boring thing wins. gold. And I always say these in my last few videos, I've said the same thing, so I'll be quick. The dot-com crash, the NASDAQ fell nearly 80%, 15 years to recover, that's how long it took. Meanwhile, gold did a 7x in that same time period. 2008, the financial crisis, everything crashed, including gold. I think gold went down like 30%, then it tripled over the next few years. In the 1970s, when Polaroid crashed and inflation was eating people alive, gold went from $35 to $850. That's more than a 20x. Every time the super exciting thing dies, gold wins. It just keeps chugging along. That's why gold is for geniuses and SpaceX is for idiots. Now, are you going to be a genius or are you going to be an idiot?